right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening or morning or afternoon or wherever you are. I am Lisa Kramer. I'm RISD's Fulbright Program Advisor. And with me tonight, we have Kevin Jankowski, RISD's Career Center Director, who has significant Fulbright advising experience, including portfolio review and interviewing. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, everyone.
And we also have Alan Tracy with us. He is our RISD Career Center Communications and Programs Manager, who is also a fantastic RISD Fulbright interviewer. And in addition to some of his insights tonight, he's going to help us pull the strings to run this webinar and facilitate the Q&A. Hi, Alan. And Alan has a few things on Zoom to go over with you.
Hi, Lisa, and thank you. And hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. We just wanted to let everybody know that we please use the question and answers to contact us for anything, but also for your questions. We would love them throughout the webinar, even if it's during the presentation. We will address them towards the end of the webinar, but send them as they come up so that you can just let it go and we'll get back to it, okay? So again, through the Q&A. The chat box will actually only be outgoing. We'll send you links at the end. Some of the links that Lisa refers to in her presentation, we'll share those with you. But that chat box is turned off to attendees. Just so you know, we are recording this and there will be a public record of the chat and the questions and answers. So we just ask everybody to please be respectful in your interactions and questions. And lastly, the Career Center has provided real-time captioning, so subtitles if you wish to use those. And you have control over the on or off button. It's in your control bar, in your Zoom control bar. And that's it, Lisa, on to you.
Great, thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.
So I am going to start by playing a video tutorial on all things Fulbright. I recorded this in advance so we can streamline all the information and ensure you have everything you need all in one place. This is a new video. Fulbright launched a new website April 1st. I recreated the slides and the video to reflect their changes. During this video, please feel free to make note of your questions or type them into the Q&A. And then after the video, we'll have an open Q&A discussion and all your questions are welcome. And we hope you stick around because there's a lot of learning that can happen when you hear from your peers' questions. So to go to the video, I am going to start by sharing my screen. Alan and Kevin, if you want to, you can mute and turn your video off. You might need to turn up your volume for this, everyone, and I'm going to mute and stop my video too once I know this is going. But just for the sound recording, I think is a little bit low, so you might want to turn up your volume just a little bit. All right, here we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lisa Kramer. I'm RISD's Fulbright Program Advisor, or FPA. Fulbright is an intense process. My job is to make it more exciting rather than overwhelming, and to help you understand the process and missions you can learn and grow from each step. I'm here to help you at all stages of the application cycle, pull all the pieces together into a compelling proposal, no matter your discipline or project content. Fulbright is also a long process. To briefly outline the timeline, you will start working on this in the winter or spring, maybe even earlier. Things will intensify during the summer as you pull all the pieces together. You will submit early fall, then the following spring, you are notified of the decision. Grants begin late summer or fall, a year after you submitted, or even the winter or the next year for some countries. Once you start the application process, the grant is a good year away. So if you're intending to apply this year, great. Consider that you will need to set time aside for Fulbright between spring and through September. If you are interested in next year or the year after, also great. It's never too early to start thinking about a Fulbright grant. Some can pull this off in 5 to 6 months, but many take 1 to 2 years to develop their proposal. In any case, you are here now and will learn a great deal, no matter how far you go in the Fulbright exploration. So about Fulbright. The goal is to increase mutual understanding between the people of the U.S. and the people of other countries through exchange. It was created by Congress in 1946 to promote international goodwill through the exchange of students in the fields of education, culture, and science. It is funded through U.S. Congress. It is administered in the U.S. by the Institute of International Education, IIE, and it is administered overseas by binational commissions and U.S. embassies. This is a government grant, which you should keep in mind as you consider your audience. It is also very important that you always keep in mind that Fulbright is at heart about meaningful cross-cultural exchange. The grant is open to graduating seniors. You may begin the application process in your junior year, but you won't be able to submit an application until the fall of the senior year. Graduate students and recent graduates know that you can apply through RISD up to 3 years after graduation. You must be a U.S. citizen by the application deadline, have a bachelor's degree by the start of the grant, be proficient in the language of the host country, and have limited experience in the host country. For most programs, applicants who have had extensive recent experience in the host country or extensive foreign experience may be at a competitive disadvantage, but are still eligible to apply. Plus, there are country-specific requirements you will need to familiarize yourself with. Know that diversity and inclusion are cornerstone principles of Fulbright. Fulbright's goal is to have a program that represents the diversity that makes up the U.S. There are 2 main grants: the Study Research Grant, which is independent research, study, or arts projects abroad for 8 to 10 months, offered in 140 countries. English teaching assistantships are an opportunity for you to help teach English and use culture in classrooms for 8 to 10 months, offered in 75 countries. I'm going to focus on the Study Research Grant, as that is what most RISD students are interested in. But know we are happy to help you with an ETA application too. Keep in mind, though, that the ETA opportunity comes with the expectation that you have experience in teaching, experience in working with non-native English speakers, specific teaching ideas and methods, and can make clear connections as to why teaching English will support your long-term goals. So a little more on the Study Research Grant in the creative arts. You will need a well-developed project and/or study plan that, in Fulbright's words, improves your craft, which means art and design making needs to be central in the study, research, and outcomes. You need to develop and document a host country affiliation relationship. This might be with a university, research think tank, lab, library, community organization, or nonprofit, in which you receive mentorship and critique, maybe access to facilities or equipment. Perhaps you are taking a class or workshop, plus you could be supporting their research or class or assisting in a production or conference. You will also need a compelling visual portfolio that supports the grant activities. Consider that your portfolio will be reviewed by U.S. artists and designers and host country experts, who are likely not all artists and designers. You will need to include meaningful host country community engagement and have a high level of academic, professional, and/or artistic achievement, and demonstrated leadership, flexibility, adaptability, and openness. There is an additional program called the Fulbright National Geographic Storytelling Fellowship. This is really exciting, but it is a little tricky. It is supplemental to the Study Research Grant. Supplemental meaning only if you receive the Study Research Grant will you be considered for the National Geographic Storytelling Fellowship, which means your study research project must be first and foremost. Your National Geographic proposed project cannot distract from your study research project. Your study research project must stand alone with the National Geographic Storytelling Fellowship as a possible enhancement. If you are interested in adding this to your Fulbright application, you will include additional application components: a storytelling project proposal, a storytelling portfolio, and a storytelling portfolio narrative. While all applicants of all disciplines are welcome, know that they are looking for academic storytellers who can tell research-based stories. You have to have demonstrated experience in storytelling, and it is incredibly competitive. If you're seriously interested and it makes sense for you in your work, you will need to carefully review all the details of this program. What are the award benefits? Round-trip airfare, a monthly stipend, accident and sickness benefits, and other possible benefits depending on the host country. Once you return from a Fulbright experience, you will have gained new perspectives, skills, and insights that will influence you for the rest of your life, along with Fulbright being a great network builder and resume builder. One of the most common questions that is asked about benefits is, can I defer my loans while I'm on a Fulbright grant for a year? And the answer is yes. What does a Fulbright project look like? It is so hard to define. There are so many variables, from your skills and interests to your affiliate's area of expertise, and there are 140 countries, each with their own interests and requirements. The possibilities are endless, but there are basically 3 broad types with lots of gray area in between. Independent study research is the traditional Fulbright award in which you design a project from beginning to end that allows you to work with people of the host country to mutually advance in your field of interest. Some countries offer graduate enrollment as an option. In this case, the program, activities, and outcomes are set. It's graduate study. However, this can be tricky as you still have to make a strong case for this isn't just about funding for graduate study. Why is this a Fulbright? What is a meaningful cross-cultural exchange? Why this country? How is this something that you can't do in the US? It is important that you make a case for how your exploration goes beyond the institution of graduate study. And for most countries, you also have to be accepted to the university program, usually a separate process. This is what most RISD Fulbrighters do, hybrids. Most have some connection to a university, academy, or institution in which there is some structured class or workshop learning, plus some sort of independent mission, earning, learning, question, exploration. Usually to do this effectively, RISD applicants have secondary affiliates, which gets them out into the community, exploring, practicing, and applying their skills and learning. Let's move on to the Fulbright resources. The Fulbright website is extensive. Everything you need is there. But because there's so much to navigate, I'm going to give you a tour and highlight the most important pages for you to review to get started. First, be sure you're on the Fulbright U.S. Student Program website, not the Fulbright Scholars website or a host country's Fulbright website. Make sure it says U.S. Student at the top. Probably the most exciting pages are the country information and requirements found here by region. For example, let's look at Romania. Here you will find the award profile and grant period. If there's anything in particular they are looking for in candidates, such as discipline, area of focus, or degree levels. Of course, you'll want to check out the language requirement right away. Any restrictions or preferences on affiliation will be listed on this page. And you may also find a link to the host country website or an email to an actual human. Process information is found under the Applicants tab, Application Components. Choose the grant, Creative and Performing Arts. Here you will find each application component with drop-downs that include considerable details on instructions and tips. Visual material requirements are found under Supplemental Materials. The visual materials are not supplementary, they are required and they are very important. Click on the link to Required Materials. You will get a list of the Fulbright disciplines with drop-downs to the requirements for each. You will have to choose a discipline. There is no multidiscipline option. It's not that you can't have a multidisciplinary practice or project, because there are so many applicants, they have to put you in categories. So you will have to choose what best fits your project and consider your audience. The link to the online application, which opens in early April, is found here. Fulbright offers webinars April through October. Under the Applicants tab, under Information Sessions, you will find webinars for applicants. These are one-hour sessions in which you will hear from Fulbright experts and hear questions from your peers around the country. It is important that you listen to a couple of these. I listen to at least 20 every year and learn a little something new each time. It is also important that you hear from Fulbright directly to confirm what I'm telling you and to provide you with new perspectives. If you see one you are really interested in but miss it, make note, then go to Recorded Webinars to listen in. You will also find webinars from the previous year here. I am often an applicant's first go-to, but know that Fulbright program officers who work for IIE are there to help too. Sometimes I don't know the country-specific answer. There are 140 countries, so it'll be best for you to email or call the program directors directly. Their contact information can be found by going to Contacts in tiny white font at the bottom of the page. Also in tiny white font at the bottom, you will find a link to a page of interesting statistics. You will find application and awards for each country. I did the math here, and in 2020-2021, 35.7% of the study research projects were awarded in the Czech Republic and 20% in Denmark. By no means should statistics solely guide your choice. If you are passionate about a country and your project is a great fit for that country, don't look at the statistics. But if you are open, the statistics may help you make a decision. You may want to poke around in the statistics and consider a less competitive country. Obviously, English-speaking countries are more competitive. The UK is by far the most competitive. If you speak another language, consider how that might be an advantage. And if you speak French, maybe instead of French, which is quite competitive, consider Benin, Morocco, or Burkina Faso. And if you don't speak another language, consider a country like Latvia or Norway with no language requirement, or Laos or Malaysia that have a more flexible language requirement. Learning some of the language is still important to these countries, but because their language is not commonly taught in the US, they are more flexible. Also in statistics, you will find a link to the top producing institutions. RISD students and alumni do very well in this competition, and RISD is a top producing school in the specialized institution category, with 89 awardees who have explored their creative projects in 43 different countries. Under the Alumni tab, you will find a grantee directory with Fulbright alumni across the country in all disciplines. I did a search on sculpture and India, which resulted in 13 Fulbrighters. There's not a lot of information on each Fulbrighter here, but the directory may give you some project idea leads or help you determine the country's interests, and maybe even lead you to someone to contact. Fulbrighters are often happy to talk to applicants about their experience. But when looking for Fulbright artists for inspiration or support, I suggest you start at the RISD's Career Center website. Scroll down to learn more about Fulbright and then to the RISD Fulbright Showcase. You will get a site of RISD Fulbrighters. Over 35 are on the site. In stories, you can read about their projects and you can connect with them through their website or see what they are up to on their Instagram. In the Experience Gallery, you can see some great photos of their lives and the people they worked with while on the Fulbright grant. And in the Artwork Gallery, you can see both what they submitted to receive the grant and the results of their projects. This website is a great place to go for inspiration and make connections. But for the nitty-gritty, how does this actually happen for RISD students? Go back to the Fulbright section on the RISD Career Center website. There are two very important documents to guide your process: the checklist and deadlines, and getting started. First, though, consider, will you be applying through RISD? If enrolled or an alum who graduated in the past 3 years, you have the option to apply through RISD, but you are welcome to apply on your own, which Fulbright calls at large, and it is not seen as a disadvantage by Fulbright in any way. Know that the pro to applying through RISD is you'll receive intensive support throughout the process, but the con may be you must follow RISD's internal deadlines. We require you to submit in mid-August in order to receive feedback, have time for fine-tuning, and resubmit. Fulbright's national deadline is early October. Our internal deadlines are in place so we can effectively, efficiently, and fairly support all of you through the process, but they are also in place for your benefit. We know from past experience that applicants who start late really struggle and then decide to wait until next year, which is fine. Lots of applicants have false starts and come back stronger than next year. This is RISD's checklist and deadline, which you saw earlier. This is just the first page of this document, a visual look at the deadlines. This document goes on to provide additional milestones for each application component. This document will help guide your process. Be sure to check out this document on the website for the exact dates, but know that the first deadline is the Kickstart meeting in mid to late May, where you confirm your intent and country choice, and we ensure you are ready to go. The second deadline is your first draft, due early June. And the first submit, if you're applying through RISD, is mid-August. Keep in mind, summer can be very challenging. Consider that many countries have a culture of long holidays in the summer, and holiday means a real break. You may find that affiliate contacts are not available, particularly mid-July to early September. And we strongly encourage you to submit documents before the deadlines. This will provide you with early reviews, meaning more time to redraft, incorporate feedback, fine-tune, and move on to your next draft or another application component. The second important document is the RISD Getting Started. This is the index page of that document. The first thing you'll notice is that it's really long, but consider that this is a condensed version of everything for RISD artists and designers in one place, with guidance based on our experience with working with many applicants over the years. This is your resource. Take the time to read this over once now, and then use it as a reference throughout the process. The RISD Getting Started document walks you through each application component with detailed advice. Plus, it has valuable information on how to work with me, what makes you a strong candidate, and what makes a competitive proposal. So what are the components? Affiliation. Applicants must find and arrange their affiliations. Countries have specific requirements, but it's usually with a university, nonprofit, or research think tank. It cannot be with a for-profit company. Applicants must build the relationship and then document the nature of the relationship in a letter. Yes, this can be hard and take time, so start early. Just do it. Don't wait for the perfect draft or perfect project idea. Who your affiliate is, what they can offer, what they would like in return will affect your project ideas and proposal. You want to work with your affiliate to develop your project. There are tips in the Getting Started document to help your search and develop your affiliation. We also have an email outreach template and actual affiliate letters we can review with you during advising appointments. Statement of grant purpose. This is a 2-page proposal outlining all the details and purpose of your project. There are a number of tools to get you started on project development and writing. In the RISD Getting Started document under the application component Statement of Grant Purpose, you can find these prompts to ensure you hit key content. This is, in a sense, a way to interview yourself. You can use these prompts as headers to help you focus, and then as your drafts develop, you'll delete. In fact, I often use them as a checklist when I review your first draft. Do consider that less is more. One thoughtful idea will be more effective than many. The purpose statement needs to be a clear and straightforward plan. You need a focused, unique direction to get busy reviewers on board. Personal statement. You have a 1-page to talk about your path. How did you get to this point of applying for a Fulbright? This is where you can be more creative and show some personality. It could be anything, really. It is an introduction to you. Obviously, nothing too personal. Remember, this is a government grant, and it should be directly related to your project. Think of this as a 3rd page in connection to your purpose statement. This is a great place for critical reflection. Fulbright loves critical reflection and seeing that you have an awareness of your arc of growth. What did you try, learn, then realize, and how did that change your perspective, lead you to new questions and next steps? This is also a place for examples and stories rather than a listing like a resume. Deep reflection of one story in your path is better than a list. For both the purpose and personal statement, consider in the Getting Started document the section on what makes a competitive proposal. For each of these green bullets, you will find a detailed description of what Fulbright is looking for. Read this now at the beginning and keep referring back to it as you develop your proposal. In addition, consider asking yourself the 2 big important questions. First, why this country? Beyond the institution you'll be working with, if you picked up this project for Singapore and moved it to Japan, is it the same thing? How is it unique to Singapore? Second, how will this experience improve your craft? Beyond inspiration or a new place to practice, what skills are you gaining to specifically improve your craft in this country? Language forms. Depending on the country, a language self-evaluation and a professional evaluation may be required or recommended. 3 recommendation letters are required. Choose wisely in terms of who will write a meaningful letter and who will be timely. At the application stage, unofficial transcripts are required. So you will need to collect these documents, scan them neatly, and upload them into the application. The online application is really long and includes 5 to 6 additional essays. Start this early. This is not a last-minute thing. And be neat and consistent in both content and in formatting. You want to have a strong application package from beginning to end. And finally, visual materials. I have this last, not because it isn't important. It is. It's extremely important. But you are the experts on this. You know how to do this well. I won't get into a lot of detail in this tutorial, but consider a few critically important tips. Connect your images to your grant project. Curate the order thoughtfully. Consider your audience carefully. Your reviewers are not only artists. Take advantage of the image descriptions. Tell your reviewers, especially your non-art reviewers, more about your process and ways of thinking. I highly recommend you check out the Fulbright Arts Portfolio webinar found on Fulbright's recorded webinars page. The final weeks can be fairly intense, so I'm going to walk you through the submission steps. If you are applying through RISD, you submit the complete application through the Fulbright online system by mid-August. But I see it first. Fulbright is not looking at this point. I arranged your RISD Fulbright interview. And don't worry, the interview is more fun than it is scary, and it can be very helpful. Know that RISD is not a gatekeeper. We submit all applications. The interview's purpose is to ensure that you're prepared to carry out your proposed project and provide an opportunity for you to receive additional feedback. After your interview, I unsubmit your application and you have a last chance for fine-tuning. This is the time for minor changes, not rewriting. Redeveloping after months of work doesn't usually work out well. This is a time to make careful, select changes to strengthen. Then you resubmit. Again, your submission goes to RISD to me for a quick review to catch any errors. I then hit my submit button to Fulbright and it's done. Art applications are first reviewed in the U.S. by experts by discipline, and semifinalist decisions are announced in January. Semi-finalist applications then go to the host country for review. And then host countries make their decisions. Both governments approve, and finalists are announced anytime between February and May, usually in March or April. I've given you a lot of information and resources here, but how do you get started? Grant writing is just as much about organization skills as it is project development. Developing organizational tools based on your style to keep track of your research, drafts, and affiliate outreach, and set personal milestones to help you meet these deadlines. Review the country summary pages, which is really exciting and is important to find out early on if there are restrictions, preferences, or special requirements. Start drafting your purpose and personal statements earlier. The first draft, the commitment in writing, and the feedback you receive, this is when things really take off. And find help. Ask for help. This is a complicated grant. Find people who will support your application process. Meet with me, but not only me. I'm only one voice in this process. Find someone in your discipline to guide your research and content. Find someone to give you feedback on your image choices. Get a professor on board before the end of the semester. Maybe you can send them a draft or two this summer. Reach out to the RISD Center for Arts and Language. They are an excellent resource for brainstorming or fine-tuning your proposal. Talk to RISD Global about where RISD might have connections in your host country. A word on getting advice for help is get that advice early on in the process rather than so much at the end. At the beginning, all voices are important. At the end, your voice is important. Last-minute advice is dangerous as it can really throw you off. Everyone will see something different. Well-intentioned advice can send you down a rabbit hole after months of hard work, and it is really hard to recover from that. And one more resource for you. On the RISD Fulbright page, scroll down to Tips from a RISD Fulbrighter. Click on Learn More. You will find a document full of excellent insights and tips from RISD Fulbrighter to Brazil, Gail Foreman. I want to leave you with a reminder of the first deadlines. Schedule your Kickstart meeting to take place by mid-May. You can make an appointment with me on the Career Center website. At some point, depending on the applicant pool, I am only open to appointments for those applying this year. But RISD Career Center advisors Jason and Scott will continue taking appointments for those interested in a future Fulbright application. First drafts are due early June. This is a draft, and there'll be many more. But it should be a serious, thoughtful draft, not an outline, not bullets, and in the correct format and page numbers, and proofs for typos and grammar errors. You don't have to have all the answers for the first draft. Start pretending and imagining. But the more thoughtful your drafts are, the deeper I can go in my review to provide feedback that will help you take it to the next level. Be sure to check the checklist and deadlines on the RISD Fulbright webpage for the exact due dates. And finally, I want to emphasize what an amazing experience Fulbright is. Even the application process itself is a valuable experience, from the research to developing relationships overseas to writing to submitting. A Fulbright proposal is a lot of work, maybe the most intense proposal you will ever write. And a Fulbright application, after a Fulbright application, other grants will seem easy. And know that it will not be a waste of time. I look forward to working with you. Thank you, everyone, and be safe.
Okay, we're back. And I did not plan this. You just had to be here, so. Okay, we're back. We're back live, and we really want to hear your questions. Just a few quick Fulbright updates first. The 2021 Fulbright cycle is open, and the country pages have all been updated. So now is the time to review or re-review the country pages for this application cycle. So if you looked at your country pages a month ago, it's good to go back and look at them now. The first deadlines, if you tend to apply through RISD, are just around the corner. The deadline for the Kickstart meeting is May 28th, and the first drafts are due June 13th. So, yeah, let's take some questions.
So, Lisa, if I may, before we get to questions, which are pouring in as we speak, I'm going to put out just a quick poll. We're going to ask everybody to participate, if you would, please. And it's actually got 3 questions about, if you're a student, alumni, and such, graduate, undergraduate student, and if you're considering applying for a Fulbright this year. If you don't mind, we'll just watch that happen and we'll take it down as soon as most people have answered.
Cool.
We're almost there. One last second. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and I will share the results with everybody, including the panelists and the audience, so you can see what's happening there.
Right.
Okay, and I'll stop sharing that. And if you'd like, I can just dig right into the questions, and I'll help get them to you guys. So let's see. So, and forgive me, your first name is, I may say it wrong. I can't tell if it's an L, is Lane. Lane asks, when exactly is early June, Lisa? As a graduating senior, I have commencement and moving to think about.
So June 13th is the date, and we have just updated the checklist of deadlines with all the dates. So June 13th is the first draft.
Great, thank you. And let's see, looks like Julie is asking, do you have to be accepted into the program before you apply for Fulbright? And let's get that over to you, Lisa, please.
Yeah, I'm assuming you mean like the graduate enrollment option. So that usually for most countries, there's a few countries where Fulbright sort of facilitates that, but for most countries, you are applying to the school and Fulbright kind of at the same time. In fact, sometimes you're applying to Fulbright first, depending on the school's application cycle. Fulbright is well aware that their timeline is early. They understand you won't have an admission decision when you're applying for Fulbright. So the things just have to kind of come together. You apply for Fulbright, you apply for the program, and then you hope to get Fulbright, and you hope to get into the school, and you hope it all kind of works out. But Fulbright does know that you won't have the admission when you're applying for Fulbright.
So just heading down just some real logistical questions. If I'm a junior right now, when should I start applying and thinking about this?
So you can apply, hit the submit button the fall of your senior year. So you can definitely start thinking about it now and writing and talking to people and all kinds of things. But because the grant would begin, if you applied the fall of your senior year, the grant wouldn't begin until the next fall. So you have to be graduated by then. So that's why we'd have to wait till the fall of your senior year to hit the submit button.
Super, thank you. Let's see here. Okay, so we're starting to broaden out a little bit here. The first question, and I'm going to combine the first these two questions. Okay, so, and forgive me about pronunciation, Radiante, forgive me, and Michelle, they're asking a question about affiliates. General question, how do I find an affiliate? Bam. Okay, and then second, so if language enhancement is not available for a country, is it okay to have a language university program as the second affiliate? So maybe part two of that.
Yeah, good questions. And Alan, Kevin, you can help with the affiliation question, because the answer to Fulbright a lot of times, or almost all the time, is it depends. So it depends on the country, it depends on what you want to do, but it tends to happen in higher education because that's where Fulbright is known. So it's almost a good starting place, even if that doesn't end up being where your affiliation is, but it's just kind of a good starting place to think about how you would do this. But a lot of people try, for connections, thinking of connections you might have with faculty, with other peers that might lead you to a country, other Fulbrighters, looking at the Fulbright grantee directory. RISD Global can help with some connections. In that getting started document, there's a bunch of how do I just get started on affiliation? How do I just start reaching out, just thinking of every connection that you can possibly think of. And it happens. People reach out cold. A museum they're interested in, and they send off an email, and it comes together. Some reach out to 10 organizations, and something comes through. So lots of different ways it can happen. Kevin, Alan, any stories about people finding affiliation you want to add?
Yeah, I remember one from many years ago, or a number of years ago, where a glass artist at RISD was dealing with the sound reverberations within vessels that led to their interest in studying narwhal whales. So this is where you take an interest, find other connections, and that led them to research of the narwhal whales in Northern Europe. And then that led them to university connections, led them to scientists, and then kind of suddenly opened up what the affiliation would be. I think in other cases, if you are really passionate about a way of making, and you find another organization outside of a university or even an artist, a maker or designer, that too is something that really kind of springboards your way of finding an affiliate. And then if you are sending to multiple, you also start to build up leverage and clout by saying, I've already been reaching out to, and I'm reaching out to you. And sometimes they actually like to see how you are looking at the various parts and connecting them to further solidify your real intent to be in that country. Because one of the things you always have to demonstrate is why that country. Why, always ask yourself, could this happen in another country? Why does it have to be that country? So multiple, I think, research options early on are really important. Alan, you're.
Sorry about that. Yep, thank you. And just to, so the sub question, so like, how do we start that relationship? And I want to make sure that we answer the language university program as a secondary affiliate. But like, how do I establish that relationship? I mean, is it a cold email? How do they even begin that?
Yeah, and it is often a cold email. Again, once we meet and we can, talk through a little bit more about what you're thinking, we can kind of help sort of craft how you start that. I actually have kind of like a sample, just how you start. How do you just send that first cold email? But that is how it happens. And as Kevin was saying, sometimes it happens. A lot of artists have 2 or 3 affiliates. You don't have to, but just because you have maybe one in a university, but you want to get out and explore and you want to be in the country a little bit more, or you want to work with an artist or something like that. So it might be that you reach out to the artist first and then they help you find the more organizational affiliate. Or it could happen the opposite way, that you reach out to the organization and then you find an artist or a community center or a cultural organization or something that's sort of broadening your experience. So it can happen in lots of different ways. I think reading that section on the getting started will help you, talking to RISD Global, talking to faculty, and just talking to us in the Career Center about how you just start. And I think the real heart of the answer is to just do it, do it. And it seems scary, but you just do it.
Yeah, and I think something that it's so close to you don't even realize, but using the clout that you're pursuing a Fulbright. I mean, it's so evident, but with so many of our awards and fellowships, when you are stating that, all of this is for me to attain this fellowship, it puts you in a different league than just casual inquiry, more like, I'm interested in and I might go to, where now you're really building around that. So you're going to frame a lot of your inquiry around the fellowship to kind of give you immediate leverage with whoever you're talking about. Once again, kind of like the whole proposal, if you are really excited and driven on a topic, an area of research, your passion and drive will often get people engaged to return your email, to follow up with you, maybe eventually to get on a phone call to work things out. But that excitement that you have is one of the greatest catalytic components of getting people interested. And then, Alan, you mentioned for Lisa about the language requirement aspect.
Yeah, so I'll read the question very specifically. Michelle is asking if CLIA, the language enhancement, is not available for the country, is it okay to have a language university program as a secondary affiliate?
So a super quick answer would be kind of no, but then sort of it depends. So it's not no that you can't have take language courses while you're there or anything like that, but it usually wouldn't be an affiliate. So you might find some language courses that you want to take while you're there, but it wouldn't be in the piece of the application that's your affiliate. It still might be that you talk about it and then you speak to what you're doing so that you're enhancing your language. And for most countries, that's going to be good. They want to see that you're interested in the language, but you also don't want this to sound like a language program or a language project, or start steering them to start thinking that, well, if you need the language study, how can you do the Fulbright? You need the language first. So it could be just a little tricky of how you work that out. And we can kind of work through that and where you put it in the application. I mean, again, it's always good to show that you're interested in the language and improving your language while you're there. So I don't mean to say at all that this is out or anything, but you just have to sort of frame it and fit it in there sort of in the right way, but probably not as an affiliate.
Thank you. And you know what, I'm gonna skip around a little bit because I think that we need to clarify a little bit. So Abenda is asking, so Fulbright is applying to a school in another country, which is not true. So,
right. So
if you could just pull that apart, Lisa.
Yeah, some of the countries do have graduate enrollment as an option, that you can be pursuing a graduate degree while you are pursuing Fulbright. That's not really the traditional award that people are as familiar with, but it is possible. And every country on their pages will clearly outline what they allow. But even if they have that, you are still doing it separate. You're applying through Fulbright to get a Fulbright, and you're applying to the school separately. But the traditional Fulbright is not applying to a school for their enrollment or their matriculation. It's applying to, you're proposing the project that you design. It could be with a school because that's where it fits and you found a professor that you want to work with. Maybe they're giving you access to a studio space or you're auditing a course or something. So you could be affiliating with a school, but you're not applying to that school unless, of course, you're doing graduate enrollment. So really look at those country pages and sort of see which option that they're allowing and what you can do with that. And if you're tailoring your own program or you are applying, but Fulbright is not a graduate study application, if that makes sense. So it's a separate application.
Lisa, I'm trying to jog my memory on this, but Japan, isn't Japan unique in which you are often applying to a university or a program as part of the Fulbright?
Japan is very interesting because there is sort of this in-between state that you either have to apply as a graduating senior. So if you're going to be a senior next year, you can apply, or a graduate student, but there's nothing in between. Right. So very strange situation and unfortunate. And I have my heart is with Japan, so it's kind of a weird no man's land there. But there are some countries, and Denmark is for one, that you have to actually be enrolled and you have to apply through admission for their school. And it has something to do with their visa, how they offer educational visas. So again, the answer kind of depends. And I think once you start looking at those country pages, if you have one country you're totally interested in, then you don't need to poke around. But if you start poking around at different countries, you're going to start seeing the difference between independent research and what you're proposing or graduate enrollment.
So Lisa, if we could, because clearly the affiliate component is on people's mind, which is probably pretty normal, because like, wow, how do I make this connection someplace else in the world? You know, is there something really straightforward you can point to, like, you know, have museums been affiliates before, or even the education department within a museum, you know, to get you closer to a collection that you're interested in? Is that an example of an affiliate that's not a school?
Yeah, I mean, again, usually that primary affiliation is a professor that works at a school and it's kind of somebody that's helping and mentoring. That is probably, I mean, what would we guess? 75%, 80%.
Right.
And then they have maybe a secondary affiliation that's an artist or a cultural institution or something else. But yes, museums are often, because they're a nonprofit, some kind of an archive. We've seen in Italy, it was like a photo museum that she was affiliating with.
Right.
We've seen more like cultural institutions that probably more like as a secondary affiliate. We've seen libraries. Again, especially if you're going more down an academic route, a library might be a good affiliation. So there's again, it tends to happen in higher education because that's where you're going to get sort of the facilities, maybe a little bit of learning. You have sort of the structure that you might need, even if you're not taking classes or you're not, you're definitely not, if you're not enrolled, maybe you're auditing a class, maybe you are working with them. I'm thinking of Gail Foreman in Brazil. Hers was with a cultural organization, an artistic cultural organization, but she also had higher education as her primary affiliation. When she got there, she did a little bit of everything, and she actually did some residencies that she threw in there, but she had the grounding at the university, cultural institution, and then residencies.
Lisa, what about the puppet maker in Italy? Was that the primary affiliate for that?
Her
fellowship?
primary affiliate, I think, was still a university.
That
I
one
think it
was
was
too? Okay.
the theater department was the primary, but, and so, it's sort of, that's my primary affiliation, but her secondary affiliation was the studio, the puppet making studio. And I think that's where she spent most of her time
Right.
once she was there on the ground. So, as long as you're sort of meeting their first primary affiliation, you're meeting the requirement, it might be that your secondary is actually more important to you, but you have the grounding in the first one.
Yep.
Thank you both. I know we're really like hammering away at this, but it feels like there's a lot of weight to this one with the affiliation. And there's one more about affiliation, and then I'll get it get back to an order here. So for an affiliation, Rachel is asking, can it be an organization not linked to an academic institution and possible more along the lines of a startup, nonprofit, rather than an established organization? And Rachel, if you have something specific in mind, if you wanted to send that along, just, by all means, but like, you sound like you're getting super specific about that. So again, startup, nonprofit, rather than a more established organization, Lisa.
So the answer would be, it depends. Some countries will be more specific about what they're asking for. So one of the things that any of us would do if we meet with you is really look at the country and read that page together so we know what they're asking. So they might say clearly has to be in higher education, and then your answer there. If they are more open, they might say nonprofit, and then the only thing you need to make sure is that they are established enough so that if you're, this is a year away, so you're submitting a year away. Is it established enough that they know that in a year, this is going to still be there, they're going to support you, they have what you need to support you, and there's not a risk of, if your affiliation goes away or changes, your Fulbright falls apart. So they're looking for some of that stability there. So again, the answer is it depends, and we'd have to kind of look at your country and your project and make sure it's the right thing. So talk to us.
Yeah, although Lisa, if I could jump in and add, in the time that I've seen it, there have been very few that were in the startup realm that I can recall at all. And the nonprofit realm, yes. And the nonprofit realm regarding especially art and design specifically is quite apparent. I think the thing you have to always remember, which is quite evident from what Lisa's been saying, is that everything you are doing is building a case for the review committees to have faith that you can pull off your proposal. So to the points that Lisa has made about multiple affiliates, if you are really excited about a startup or nonprofit entity, but it's kind of evident, as Lisa was saying, that a majority do often tend to be educationally connected somehow, then that may be all the more reason where you solidify the startup in the nonprofit side, but you are seeking that educational affiliate to kind of just, again, give it the clout to the review committees within the country and also within the US so that you can make it past that phase. The goal, again, is what are the parts that you need to pull off a really wonderful, outstanding experience. So just weigh that. But in the history, I can't recall any startup that has been an affiliate in my knowledge. So.
Great, thank you. So I'm gonna combine a couple of questions here slightly. So John is asking, well, you know what, I'm gonna ask these separately. Forgive me. John is asking, please define, and this is in quotes, must have experience in host country.
So you actually don't need to, or in some cases even should have experience in the host country. So they're actually not looking for you to have experience in the host country. Now, there might be some exceptions to that. Some countries that they're maybe just saying that, you know, things are a little bit more challenging here, but things are very different than your country. So we want to make sure that you are prepared for this. I can't think of any countries on the top of my head that say you have to have experience in the host country, though, because they're actually looking for you to be challenged and grow and learn. So I'm not quite sure what you might have seen or heard, but you actually don't want to have too much experience in the host country. And I think then that leads to Alan, the next question.
Go ahead.
Well, just to say, because I think this is good to know, it's the flip of it, really. If you've had some experiences in a host country, either family connections, vacations, you actually record that information in your proposal. So, you know, do know there are areas where you have to tell them that. And less is better in general. I mean, the less you have, for all the reasons Lisa said. And if you have more, then that's something you're going to really want to talk through with Lisa about how to explain that. So it's actually the opposite that's more challenging than not having any experience in a host country, which they actually want.
So with that said, Leslie is asking, so what if you're interested in participating in a country that your family generationally has ties, but you personally do not have the, you know, you don't have that experience and would like to learn more within that country. So like you haven't been there, I'm imagining, but your lineage is there.
Yeah, so the answer is it depends. But so overall, you know, Fulbright is looking to give people new opportunities to grow and learn and to, you know, push themselves into new areas and meet new people and things like that. So just sort of keeping that mission and that sentiment in mind. So Fulbright, their exact words are something like, if you have had significant experience in the host country, you are still eligible to apply, but you may be at a disadvantage. I think I have that right. But that disadvantage might be minor. You might have to figure out, as Kevin said, like, so how do I raise other thing, or how do I explain this and make sure that they understand that the importance of this, or where the challenges are, or maybe because I have some familiarity, I can go deeper than somebody else can. And so I'm going to propose a project that's a little bit more complex because I have some of this experience. So again, it's just kind of how you frame it and how you think about it. I mean, yes, if you spend a lot of time in the host country, you have a lot of connections there, and they can see this and they can see, well, you're likely going to get there. You're likely going to go. Your family goes. You might want to think about another country and pushing yourself in a different direction. But if you haven't had the time there, and you definitely haven't explored as an adult, as an artist, and this is your time to like really learn I mean, some of this is personal learning too. It's not just artistic or educational or professional learning, but it's personal too. So there's if you look at our applicants too, we've had Mary Kim is from, her family is from South Korea, and she had spent time there as a young girl, but hadn't been back, and was just, really made a case for that. I need this opportunity to really explore as an adult, as an artist on my own, not being somebody's granddaughter that, they're, tossing around, but I can do my own thing. And she, and she had to make a strong case for that. And then she had to make sure that, everything else was a little bit stronger, so that if there's 2 reviewers and they're looking at you and they have 2 applicants that they're super excited about, and one has a strong connection with host country and one doesn't, they're likely going to choose the one that doesn't. That's sort of like where the disadvantage could come into play. But, there's no perfect application or perfect setup. I mean, everybody has advantages and disadvantages that you're trying to upplay and downplay. And it's all about making your case for why you and why this country and, why now.
But I would add, in my own memory, there's been a number of applicants who in fact have built some of their proposal around having a better understanding of their identity because their family had migrated to the United States even several generations past. And they did weave that into their proposal. And many have attained it. I also remember years ago, Zilu Chen, who went to China, even though she hadn't spent time in China, to really understand her jewelry making as it related to her studies of Chinese craft. So that element can play a role. You just don't want the proposal to be all about that. It has to still often have another theme that you're building around.
Yeah, I mean, you have to kind of imagine they don't want to picture you hanging out with your family and you using this as a vacation. I mean, that's obviously, what they're avoiding. Sorry,
Right.
Alan.
No, it's good. That's important, actually. And I would like to just a really general phrase that is just a thing with Fulbright. This is supposed to be cultural exchange.
Right.
So like if it is rooted in cultural exchange, and I mean that I encourage you to hear those words as you're working on your proposals and your affiliates and like why you're going there, because it is really supposed to be a two-way street, and it just speaks to like the personal journey that this could be. And even if your family does have some experience there, that exchange is something that I encourage highlighting. So, so there are a couple more questions. We're doing well though. It's coming up to 8 o'clock, so we'll keep running here. Can you speak more about the Fulbright National Geographic Storytelling Fellowship? And that's from Emily, and Emily put another question in. I just want to see if it's related. On the Fulbright site, it seems that arts-specific research awards are only offered in 7 countries. Is that accurate? So again, separate questions, but let's just handle them. Emily, you're on, right?
Yeah, Emily. That page you're looking at, I know that page, and that I do not put that in my video because that's what that page does. You look at it and you think there's only 7. Those are, and it's not true. Those 7 are just super art specific, like they're only for artists. So once you get into the country pages, you'll see, I can't think of any country that doesn't accept artists. They might say they might have some preferences for some things. So I don't even look at that page. So don't look at that page. Think more about the countries that you're interested in. And yeah. So forget about that and look at what you want, find the country you're interested in. And so the other one is National Geographic. So this is a tricky one. It is part of the application. So, and it's secondary, it's supplemental to your study abroad application. So it's almost like at this beginning point, I feel like, don't even worry about this. Like, you don't even need to be thinking too much about National Geographic storytelling, because it's only if you can first get through and think about your study research project. That is first and foremost, that is everything. If you don't get the study research grant, you're not even looked
Right.
at for your National Geographic. So, I mean, and I don't mean don't look at it. Of course, look at it, get excited about it. But you have to do everything that's required of the study research. You have to have a strong proposal, and then you can add on this piece and have them look at it. They're all part of the same application. You just check a box that says National Geographic Storytelling. You get a new tab, you get the new places to upload your stuff, and you can submit that along with your application and be considered for it. The only danger is that you don't want it to distract from your study research project. So you don't want it to have discrepancies. You don't want it to look like, what I really want is National Geographic Storytelling. And so I just kind of threw together this other stuff because that's not going to work. So it has to kind of go along with everything and fit in. And then the other two things to really think about is that it is really competitive. So I think they had 200 plus award, applications last year, and they gave out 4. So it's statistically very, 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 very competitive. And the research, the storytelling is academic based. So it's research, academic based storytelling. So yes, you can be taking photos, paintings, all kinds of stuff and visuals, but you have to be able to tell research-based stories, and you have to prove it. You have to have links on web that you can really show that you are a storyteller. So I kind of just feel like, don't worry about it at the beginning and just kind of read about it, work, focus on that study research, and let's talk about it and let's see if that can be an added on piece.
Yeah, there was no doubt this specific fellowship with National Geographic was separate as an application, and it was so complex to try to guide people because it was separate and so demanding and more academically focused and so competitive that it took a lot of energy to deal with the two. To Lisa's point, we were really relieved. We were like delighted when they merged them so that applicants weren't drained by this really challenging award. And now that if you approach it in the way Lisa said, that's the most critical nature. You can't get to the National Geographic level unless you are satisfying the first level of really having almost a standard application well done and accepted. So this is something that has been a little challenging in the office because it's very desirable, but it's also been very complex. And the fact that it's merged now is actually a really good thing.
Thank you.
And we have not had anyone
Right.
receive the award. So
Right.
we don't know like a lot about like then what happens next and how that works out from there.
Thank you. So Shruti is asking, is there a cap to RISD affiliated Fulbright applicants? And if so, is it limited by the study approach, i.e. arts versus academic versus hybrid? So like as in, can only 5 RISD community members become Fulbright fellows per year, for instance? So is there a cap is the bottom line?
No. And there isn't, we don't have a cap to who can apply to us. We tend to kind of settle into who's going to apply. And if that number is really large, we sort of have some backup plans to kind of figure out how to help you through it. Of course, you have to meet the deadlines. And then Fulbright does not have any caps on that at all. And they would never hold that against you. They would never have in their painting group, if they had 5 painting RISD applicants, you'd all be likely to different countries. In fact, I don't think I've ever had 2 for the same country in a year ever since I've done this. I don't think so.
Pretty rare.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but even so, they would maybe if 2 of you painters got to the host country, so you were semifinalists and you got to the host country, and the host country is now reviewing and they see 2 painters, it still wouldn't be RISD that would be your problem. It would be that they have 2 painters. They might have 4 awards, and they're going to likely have some diversity among discipline once they get there. So, but no, do not worry about that at all.
Great, thank you. Peter is asking, is it possible to look at past winning proposals? Lisa.
So Fulbright is pretty serious about no to that they do not share proposals, they do not post proposals. They have a pretty hard no on that. We, however, do have a couple up on the website that you can see. They are older ones, and they're not quite in the, because we had to, I think it was before me, but had to kind of clean them up to take out information that shouldn't be public. So they're not quite what an actual proposal would be. But when you're meeting with us, obviously we do have proposals in office, and as we're in advising meetings, we will share pieces of them, aspects of them, sections of them to help like where you're stuck. And that seems to work better because we know more what you're looking for, where you're stuck, or what's kind of troubling you, and we can kind of, okay, let's look at this one specifically, rather than the fear of just showing you proposals is that you will either feel limited or you'll feel like you have to follow this one path. And there's just so many paths to this. We don't want you to like get into a groove and think that you have to do something because you saw something.
Yeah, and the same, just to tell you all, the same holds true for the portfolio. And especially at RISD with so many different majors, it would be, it just doesn't make sense. There's no set mold that a portfolio should look a certain way, across all the different majors for Fulbright specifically. And this is all the more reason if you are really seeking advice on, what to put together and what should be in the portfolio, then absolutely schedule time with us, schedule time with me. I do a lot of the work on the portfolio, and we'll guide you through it. And we've seen many, and we really have a very good sense of what they're looking for. And then there are also, as Lisa said, webinars on that as well.
Thank you both, really great. And I think we're down to the last two, and I've been saving the, so Radiante, and forgive me again if I'm mispronouncing your name, I am saving your question for the end so we can talk about how to make appointments and things like that. So Shreya, is there a restriction to the timeline of the experience? So Shreya is asking, is there a restriction to the timeline of the experience?
I'm thinking that you mean like once you're in country. So, and I think all the countries say pretty clearly at the top that if it's 9 months, if it's 12 months, 8 months, there might be a couple shorter ones. I actually just heard this the other day that there's a couple of countries that have shorter arts. Then you can do it for 6 months or something like that, but very, very rare. Most of them are about 9 months, again, because Fulbright kind of follows the academic year and kind of follows higher education. They might say that it can't be less than that, it can't be more than that, but a lot of times they end up staying longer, that we'll have applicants will find ways, or they'll add on a supplementary grant or something and stay a little bit longer, but not super restrictive. And again, depends on what the country says.
Lisa, there's been haven't there been a few unusual cases where we've had people achieve an extension of a year? And I mean, they're unusual,
Yeah.
but it has happened a couple times.
Yeah, and I'm not sure necessarily if they're always like Fulbright specifically funded, like Alex, when he, Alex McCarger to Austria, he was doing a combination of a English teaching and a study research. I think his second year was actually funded by the school, the ETA school. So I'm sure they're all like intermingling and trying to help people like find ways to study more and research more and things like that. So India, when Lindsay was in India, she got lots of travel grants. So 2 or 3, I should say. She applied for, I think, 2 Fulbright, and then they gave her a travel grant to travel to another area of India and work with the students at a school there. So yeah, and I think after that, she actually went to Holland for a couple of months for a residency. So, one thing's kind of lead to another. Once you're in this Fulbright community, you're hearing from people, you're talking to people, you're seeing what other people are doing, and it leads to other things.
Right.
That's awesome. Thank you for blowing that out. Shreya, I hope that answers your question for sure. So can I make the call? Like, we're on our last 2 questions. Should I do that?
Sure.
Are you guys good? Okay, so let's see. So Peter, I think in response to what we were all just talking about here, you can combine study/research and English teaching, is the question.
Mm.
I think Austria might be the only one that does that. Again, they change every year, and Austria, I haven't looked actually this cycle if they've actually changed that, but for the most part, it either study research or it's ETA. Again, Austria might be one of the only one that does this kind of combination. Some of the ETA programs do encourage a side project that you're in a classroom, maybe 20 hours a week. So they want you to be proposing sort of what else you're doing, exploring, obviously for artists, it would be something artistic. But some ETA programs say, no side project because you are in the classroom 35 hours a week. So that you have to kind of look up, usually it'd be in the ETA program that they would talk about the side projects. The study research, again, besides Austria, doesn't have an English teaching component with it.
Yeah.
Actually, though, I will say, and I have been noticing this more lately, that some countries will say that they want that you have to do some kind of, I don't even know how they call it, like admissions, kind of study abroad, kind of encouragement kind of aspect. Sounds like sort of a minor thing that they ask, but you are an ambassador when you're over there. So they're asking that it's probably talking to students, at the local high school or university about studying in the US. So I've seen some of this new kind of component there. It's very minor though.
Super. Well, and so last question is actually very specific about making an appointment. And I'm just to say, I'm sharing the 4 links in the chat right now, which is Career Center's Fulbright page, or the base of Fulbright information on the Career Center's page. Fulbright, their own website, which many of you have probably found at this point. There's a link in there for the Career Center's how to meet with us. And Lisa, if you could get super specific about like what to do, like who to meet with, and how to fold in and when to fold in the Language Arts Center advisor versus Career Center advisors. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can really do it either way, especially if you are kind of getting into the writing. Some people do start some of the writing and the drafting first, and then you're very welcome to meet with the Language Arts Center and start just kind of drafting that stuff. Obviously, meeting with us, you're going to get more of the logistic type of stuff, the affiliation and sort of thinking about the components and those kinds of aspects of it. I know off the top of my head that I'm completely booked this week, but I do have openings next week. Scott and Jason are my backup advisors, and I'm not sure of their schedules off the top of my head, but they tend to have maybe this time of year have a little bit more than I have open right now. Maybe, I don't know, but you can check with them too. When you make an appointment, you can actually click the type and you can just get Fulbright and see who's available. Obviously, Kevin is here too, Alan, any one of us. I know Kevin probably doesn't have time on his calendar open, but Alan, you're willing to brainstorm with people too. I know Susan, Kara, I mean, all of us are. I think at some point I want to meet with you just because I will likely be working with you in the summer, and it's kind of nice to have a face and just get to know each other just a little bit before we go down this crazy train. But it's also good for you to meet with other people, and I'm just one voice in this, and it's really good when you meet with other people and hear from other perspectives. And especially at the beginning, like I said in the video, get pushed and pulled, like move in different directions and listen to all kinds of people, but then stick to what you know, and you'll be the expert midsummer.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Lisa. And Lane is just asking, like, so when they go to meet with us, how much of a plan do they need to have when they come to meet with us?
So this time of year, like a lot of it is just, let's look at the country page. Let's just brainstorm, talk about your ideas. Just, you can be totally at the beginning. At some point, I will shift my advising to those who are applying this year and are really, really ready to go. Scott and Jason will keep their calendars open all summer and throughout the year. Of just let's brainstorm, let's see what you're thinking. So again, if you are applying this year and you plan to apply this year, then we should be meeting sooner rather than later, so that we get your country and you get ready to go. So the Kickstart meeting May 28th. But you don't have to have a draft in hand ready to go. Sometimes some people have outlines ready just to kind of talk through. But a lot of times in our first meeting, we are talking about affiliation and country requirements and logistics and components and things like that.
Fantastic. Well, those were great questions. I am grateful everybody that stayed on this long to learn all those last things. It's great. Like, this is how it happens though, talking to people. And I know you're kind of asking through a chat, and we're kind of talking through this forum, but the bottom line is there's a lot of learning that happens through discussion. So those conversations are just getting started. This is kind of like day one. Lisa, Kevin, any closing thoughts?
I just wanted to mention the video tutorial is on the RISD Fulbright webpage. Also, Fulbright has their webinars that are starting to roll out, and on April 14th, that is tomorrow, at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time is the graduate degree enrollment webinar, and then on April 16th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time is the Introduction to Arts webinars. And these are really rolling out. There's a couple every week. If you miss them, you can go to that the recorded part of the website and watch for them and watch them later.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think many of you probably know Lisa or have seen Lisa in the grants and residency webinar, but Lisa's work with the Fulbright is just phenomenal, and you have seen tonight between the tutorial that was provided and her answers that her depth of knowledge is unbelievable for this program. But as Lisa also noted, this is a lot of work, and you want to be well prepared for it. And I think you have already mentioned, Lisa, but this is available to you with support from the office for us to submit your application for 3 years after you graduate. So if you're listening tonight and you're excited, but you've got a lot going on and you want to wait another year or 2 or 3, you can do that because we're here to support you in it. So just keep that in mind. Also know, and we often say this, the grant is so complex and so fascinating. You're going to learn so much about yourself. And in doing that and going through this, it really is like taking a course on grant making. And you will have knowledge and skills that you can apply to every other kind of grant that you'll be applying to in your career. And that's hugely advantageous to you as an artist and designer. So keep it in mind, but you want to do it when it's the right time, and you do have time several years after you graduate. So just keep it in mind.
Yeah, I would say too, like a lot of people ask, like, why does this take so long? And it's not that you're going to be working on this every single day or hours and hours and hours every week, but it's a long sort of process of doing a step, getting feedback, getting some information, going back and forth. So you do need to really be committed to this, excited, passion, but also you need to have the time and energy. And if it's not the right time, that's fine. And you can at any point say, you know what, I'm moving this to next year.
Right. Great.
Well, nice job all. Thank you for answering all those questions too, and for being available tonight. And thank you to the audience for being here tonight and participating like you did. So have a great night, everybody. And good luck with everything if you choose this year or the next couple of years.
Great. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
Good night,
Thank
all.
you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yep.